And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang has the week off. He'll be back with us on Monday. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the Professor of Political Science Emeritus at California State University at Fullerton, Professor Barbara Stone. Welcome.
Good Monday morning, John. Or afternoon, or whatever it is.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
These days all just kind of run together anyway. All right. The big push nationally right now is over the control of Congress. We know that typically when a party controls the White House, the first time we get to a midterm election, the party out of power tends to do well. Well, the Congress is pretty evenly divided with the Republicans in the narrow majority. And if the Democrats have an okay year, they will likely take control of at least the House of Representatives. Maybe not the Senate, but probably the House. Donald Trump is aware of this. He knows that if the Democrats take control of the House midway through his second and final term, that could block much of his agenda. So he's trying to look for ways to prevent that from happening. Now, one of the ways that they're looking at is they're looking at redrawing the congressional lines midway through the decade. Typically, we do that after a census is taken and we know about all the various population shifts within the states and even within the states. Well, this last time was a bit of an anomaly because we took the census during the throes of COVID, and we know that a lot of people moved from states that were locked down, places like California, and they moved to places that weren't locked down, like Texas and Florida and Arizona and the like. But even within the confines of places like California, we saw a lot of movement where people left places like Los Angeles County and San Francisco that were deeply locked down. They moved to Orange County. They moved to the Central Valley. They moved to the Inland Empire. And those areas now have a much larger population than they used to have. And Los Angeles and San Francisco, Oakland, are all hemorrhaging their population. That's the argument that's being given as to why the line should be redrawn. Texas appears to be on board with doing it. It looks like other states, including New Hampshire, Ohio, and even Florida, could do the same thing. Gavin Newsom, trying to present himself as the antithesis to Donald Trump, and is now subscribing to the belief that you have to fight fire with fire, and he can't put out fires, so I don't know why he would want to do that. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, Gavin Newsom...
His hair's on fire, so that's okay.
That's true. Is now saying, okay, you want to do that in Texas, you want to do that in Florida, we can do it here in California too. The difference between those states and California is the people, the voters, selected to have a nonpartisan commission, even though it's very partisan, draw the lines. And if Gavin Newsom gets what he wants, he has to take it to a vote to the people to change the way we draw the lines here in California. Well, apparently they just did a census, or not a census, but a focus group rather, and they found that if they took it to the ballot, as of today, it would cost $250 million for the special election, and only 52% of Californians would support it. That is before 1 cent is spent promoting the opposition. That would be far from a slam dunk if he actually gets the people to sign on to it. They have to count the votes in time. They have to get the election ready in time. They have to do a lot of things, lickety-split. They're not known for their efficiency. And also, they'd have to draw congressional districts that would benefit the Democrats for sure. Well, they're spread pretty thin as it is right now. If you look at the vote totals, how many votes Democratic candidates get compared to Republican candidates get in the House of Representatives, right now, the way it's drawn up, the Republicans are way underrepresented in terms of their actual support at the ballot box. If you get more aggressive with how you draw these districts, you could end up drawing a lot of Democrats out if Asians and Latinos start voting Republican in larger numbers as they did in the last election. Your thoughts on all of this?
That he's out of his mind, but he's watched Cory Booker too often. and thinks he too is going to be the savior of the Democrat Party. By the way, John, I promise you and your listeners, I will try to make this intelligible. A few days ago, I was trying to explain reapportionment, gerrymandering to a group of normal people, and they were very nice, but they told me they had no idea what I was talking about. So I'll try to make it simple. We'll see. By the way, you do know New York did this before the last election. So I have no idea why they think they'll draw any better lines this time, but that's neither here nor there. I suspect the New York thing is why Trump and his people thought that, well, Texas could go ahead and do it that way. Okay. The Constitution says that each state is entitled to a number of representatives based on how their population compares to the country as a whole. In all but 2 states, I think, if there's more than one member of the House of Representatives, they draw district lines so everyone's elected within districts which must be of equal population. That's to the point you were just discussing, and I don't think our boys in Sacramento are thinking about that. But they must be equal size. What a gerrymander is drawing the district lines to make sure your party has the maximum number of seats possible. And since you have to give the other party some, man, you slam their people into a very few districts. Like in California, and it actually is what happened. If you look, by the way, number one, there are no Republican districts on the coast. None, 0 zip, that touch the coast. Most of them are inland, in and around the Central Valley and the Sierra, and they are so red you could take all of South Central Los Angeles, move them there, and they would still elect a Republican. So it was a serious Democrat gerrymander. But for the Democrats right now, the problem is you've already done it. You can't touch those seats. And of 52 congressional seats, there are only 9 that are Republican anyway, and you can't touch the majority. But they have to come up with something to pick off a few people. Sitting here, I can tell you they still don't understand why they can't beat David Valadao in the Central Valley. His numbers are so bad, he shouldn't have a shot, but he wins every time. They'll go after Ken Calvert, perhaps, in the Inland Empire. They'll go after Darrell Issa down in San Diego, and they'll go after Young Kim. The problem for them, so that's 4 out of 9, I would guess. I'm just making that up. The problem is that you have to take voters who are reliable Democrat voters and put them in the Republican districts, and then, of course, take some of those Republican voters and put them in Democrat districts. If you look at the maps, there are very, very few safe Democrat districts right next to those Republican districts they're going after. And like I can tell you these days, I happen to live in Mike Levin's, Mike Levin, I think he says it, district, which is a San Diego Orange County district. You go messing around with it, and that boy's going to have trouble. We keep thinking we can take him out anyhow. Republicans already have a candidate who's the supervisor in San Diego County. 2/3 of the voters are in San Diego County. You're going to conceivably take out Darrell Issa at the extent of both Mike Levin and Scott Peters. That is not a good trade-off if you're a Democrat. And the numbers seem to line up that way. And you go, well, yeah, but the Democrats will be clever, right? Clever. You, John, hinted at this. Right this moment, their legislature is on recess. It'll be back August 18th. If Gavin wants to have a special election the first Tuesday in November, he's going to have 4, 5, 6 weeks approximately to put together a plan to get enough buy-off so he gets 2/3 in both houses of his legislature, to get it so that every registered voter in California has a ballot in their hand 30 days in advance of the election, that every overseas military and some other folks have it 15 days before that. So that gets us, my math bad, to 45 days before the election. And you have to solicit arguments for and against it and translate it into every language on earth. Dear Lord, I have no idea how those people are going to do that in a meaningful way. They'll turn something out, but Michael Berman's dead, for those of you who follow this. There's no one who can deal with these numbers, and even if you have somebody who can, it's what you said, John. The numbers have changed too much. COVID interfered with this. And I mean, the Census Bureau comes out with updated numbers each year, but it would take a genius such as I don't think exists in Sacramento to come up with numbers that are at all meaningful. And I think the boys and girls run a very real risk of passing districts where you lose Democrat seats. That would be the end of Gavin for president. So maybe it's all worth it.
Well, just think about the population patterns that we know about in California. We know that LA is losing population. We know that Oakland is losing population. San Francisco is losing population. And we know that the Inland Empire, Orange County, and the Central Valley are gaining population. If you were to redraw those seats, you would probably have to redistrict or draw out 2 members in LA and 2 members in the Bay and draw new seats in the Central Valley unless you want to really get creative with how you draw those lines, because the people moved out of LA and they moved into the inland part of the state. That's where your population is.
Yes, and by the way, therefore, your Democrat voters because some of those are going to be Democrats. In fact, a whole lot of them are going to be Democrats. So they've already moved and are influencing what's going on there. So how are you going? I mean, I have no idea how they think they could do this. That's what happens when you only have 9 out of 52 who are Republican. I don't have any idea, John, how they think they're going to pull this off. Actually, I truly believe that every night Gavin says prayers that Texas will back off. And then he won't have to do it. I might be completely wrong. Things could happen. You're right about midterm elections. Things have changed right now. A lot of people who went with Trump on immigration are not pleased with the way it's being enforced. So there are a lot of factors, but how's this for a factor? Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the nonpartisan governor of California, was very all in on the reapportionment commission. I saw a quote, somebody asked Arnold's office, actually, how would Arnold feel about doing this when the evil Republicans are doing it in Texas? And the answer was, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Can you imagine, given where they started, and take my word for it, normal people have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about this. That's because they're normal as opposed to what lives in Sacramento. And you have Arnold out there going, don't do it. This is anti-everything that we did. They're tricking you. Don't do it. That's the end of their stupid ballot measure. And I want to see every single Democrat running for governor take a position on whether or not they're for this.
What happens to Gavin if this doesn't pass?
Same thing that's going to happen anyway. He's not going to be president. Well,
or he could have a worse outcome, which is he gets it and he draws these districts so thin the Republicans actually hold on to their seats or pick up some.
See, I understand. I probably am just a hopeful Republican. I can find the seats that with this, that, and the other, the Republicans could swing their way. I really can. As I say, I happen to live in one of them. If that happens, of course, I don't know how much Gavin cares about California these days unless it's going to make him president. At least Kamala was honest enough to go, I don't care, I'm not running. But he has to be governor for another year, John. And if you're a Democrat in Sacramento or a Democrat in Congress, and this goes south by that much, are you going to march off the next cliff with Gavin? I don't think so. He might as well just resign and let Eleni have it, because he won't have any power at all to do anything if this goes down that way.
What do you think the Democrats in Congress representing California think about this? Because at this point, what they're looking at is, I guess the upside is the opportunity to be back in the majority, which is what they all want. But if the cost is, we're going to take Democrats out of your reliable Democratic district and we're going to put them someplace else, and we're going to give you a bunch of Republicans, and then we're going to have to draw out 3 to 5 seats in 2030 because of the population losses, so you might get drawn out anyway. But before that, you're going to have a seat where you're going to have to work that district every weekend as opposed to phoning it in. I don't think I would support this.
John, I actually think it will be very easy for those people. They will go, of course, for the cause of the Democratic majority, I'm willing to sacrifice. In their minds, they are saying things that if Randy were here, he would block me out on the radio for saying. And after the expletives, they would be going, somebody just go shoot him. Seriously, and I don't think any of them back him for president, so that'd make it really easy. But this sounds sick. I actually understand it, because if I'm the Democrats, yes, I'm counting on getting back in the majority at the midterms. And the Texas thing is something and that could matter. As I say, I think the model is what New York did last time, and yeah, it can matter. So, okay, they're willing to consider it, but if I'm a California Democrat member of the House of Representatives, I'm thinking we're going to get it back anyway, so why do I need to sacrifice, is what I'd be thinking.
And I think that's where most of them are. Professor Barbara Stone, Professor of Political Science Emeritus at California State University at Fullerton. Thanks so much for stopping by.
My pleasure, John.
It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. If you'd like to listen to the podcast edition of this program, all you have to do is subscribe on your handy-dandy iPhone. If you do that, episodes of the show will get downloaded to your phone instantaneously the moment we post them, and then you can enjoy them on an airplane, on a cruise ship, on the exercise bike, wherever it is that you enjoy your podcasts. Why not include us on the list? And right now, you should be celebrating summer at Resorts World Las Vegas. Resorts World Las Vegas offers a 5.5-acre pool complex with 5 unique pool experiences and the largest elevated pool deck on the Las Vegas Strip. IU Day Club is a stunning oasis inspired by the islands of Southeast Asia. However, if you're caller number 9 right now at 888-790-5222, that's 888-790-5222, you'll win a Resorts World summer getaway that includes a 2-night stay at Resorts World Las Vegas, 2 VIP passes at IU Day Club, and $175 food and beverage credit. All of this provided by Resorts World Las Vegas, now offering no resort fees and complimentary parking. Good luck dialing. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Here's an update on a story that we brought to you as part of the California Crime Blotter some time ago. Do you remember outside a nightclub in Hollywood where a group of people were there, and there was a guy on the inside? I don't know if he was overserved, if he was fighting over a girl, or he was just an a-hole in general. But something happened where they kicked a guy out of the nightclub, and he was furious. And he left, and he got in his car, I'm sure stone cold sober, and he decided that he would get revenge on the nightclub that kicked him out. And he took his car, and he rammed his car into a crowd full of people standing right outside the nightclub. As you can imagine, everyone in that crowd was furious, even madder than the guy for getting kicked out of the nightclub. And for those who were able to walk and were able to, I guess, have their faculties about them, they all decided to get up and go after the driver, and they dragged him out of the car, and they beat the living hell out of him. And one guy even had a gun on him, and they shot him in the keister. Well, that individual, his name is Efren Villalobos, a 38-year-old, was taken into custody at a home in Redondo Beach on Sunday. On Friday, the cops released images of the suspected gunman wearing a blue Dodgers jacket, a light blue jersey with the number 5, and blue jeans, and asked the public to help identify him. He also, now that I've seen the booking photo, has 2 of the biggest holes in his earlobes I've ever seen before in my entire life. You could drive a car through those holes. And now the man is in custody, awaiting to be charged with a crime and, in theory, awaiting trial. Now, here's my question to you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Would you vote to convict this man if you were put on the jury? Because I don't think I would. And I almost don't even think I would care as to what facts the prosecutor provided me with. Because you look at what we deal with on a daily basis living in Southern California, the state of California, and we know that it's anything goes right now. Especially when we had George Gascon as district attorney in L.A., Pamela Price in Alameda County, and Chesa Boudin in San Francisco. The crooks, the criminals, the bad guys, they could get away with doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. More often than not, we didn't even bother to arrest them. If we did arrest them, we know that we would give them some ridiculous slap on the wrist and call it quote-unquote accountability. If you're part of a crowd and you're just standing outside of a nightclub and some complete idiot decides that he's going to get behind the wheel of a car and mow you down like your bowling pins on purpose with malice, and you know the likely result is going to be that the guy is going to have to go to traffic school, my guess is there are certain people out there who are going to take the law into their own hands and bring about a little street justice. Because if you're the one that got run over, or you're part of that crowd that he ran into, and you still have the ability to walk and talk, and the guy who drove the car is right there, and you have a gun on you, and you shoot him in the butt, my guess is you don't want to have to roll the dice and hope that the DA does the right thing. And this is part of what happens when the system fails and people don't do their job. You know that justice is not going to be the end result of what happens here. You know that this guy is not going to be charged, convicted, and sentenced to a punishment that's appropriate. So if you know going into it that that's not even an option, and you have the opportunity to make it right, there are certain people out there who are going to do that. I'm not one of them, and I don't certainly advocate for doing something like this. But if someone out there has it happen to them and they decide that this is how they're going to react to it, and I'm put on that jury, I'm not going to convict that person. No way. 0% chance of that happening. Because I know what kind of mindset that guy was in. Some fool almost took my life and ran over a bunch of people. Nothing's going to happen to him. I'm here, and something's going to happen to him. That's the attitude. And you know what? I understand. That guy doesn't go to jail unless 12 of us vote to send him there. There's no way they can put him there without that happening. Well, if the public is fed up and the public has had enough, and you see, I guess we could call it vigilantism, that's presented in front of you the next time you go on jury duty, I don't necessarily know that the prosecutor would get my vote. In fact, I can tell you they wouldn't. When this story happened, we speculated. Randy was here when this story happened. And we said the person that they're going to go after most aggressively is not the driver of the car that plowed into the crowd of people. The person they're going to go after most aggressively is the one who was part of the crowd who shot him in the butt. And maybe even the people who beat the driver after they drag him out of the car. Because that's how it works here. It's like when we do these stories about these liquor stores being robbed. Whenever the liquor store owner fights back, we always say, if someone gets hurt, the person they're going to go after most aggressively is the liquor store owner or the jewelry store owner. Because that's how it works here. Right is wrong, up is down, left is right. You get the idea. And there are certain people out there who just won't put up with that. And maybe, I doubt the fact, after looking at the guy's picture, that the guy is particularly political. Looks like a non-voter to me. But he understands the reality of what life is like here right now. And he understood that this driver did something on purpose, hoping to hurt him and the people around him, and he wasn't going to put up with that. The state of California is willing to put up with that, but this guy wasn't willing to put up with that. And I'm actually curious to find out where public opinion is on judging someone like this. I wonder if it's possible in LA County, where the juries don't want to convict anyone for anything anyway, if the juries are willing to convict a vigilante for doing something like this. And I'm thinking, if there's a trial and I'm part of the jury, and I've been part of a couple of juries in my life, unfortunately, but if I'm part of the jury and you don't get my vote as the prosecutor, my guess is you don't get a conviction. Because I am much more law and order than the average person in this state. And if you start out without my vote, I don't see how you convince 11 other people otherwise. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I want to hear from you right now at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. A man was upset after he was kicked out of a nightclub, gets behind the wheel of a car, drives the car into a large crowd. The crowd is angry, drags him out of the car, beats the guy up. One guy shoots him in the butt, and now that man will be standing trial. If you were put on the jury, would you send him to jail? I would not. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222? Your call's coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. A man gets kicked out of a nightclub. He gets angry. He gets behind the wheel of his car and drives through a crowd that is outside the nightclub. The crowd is angry. They drag him out of the car and beat him. One person in the crowd has a gun on him, and he shoots the driver in the butt. Now, that man, the shooter, has been arrested, and the county of Los Angeles is going to try to throw him in jail for a very long time. If I'm on that jury, there is 0% chance they get me to vote to convict the guy. The state of California is bonkers right now. The bad guys don't go to prison. If the bad guys don't go to prison, I'm not sending any of the vigilantes to prison either. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222? Let's go to Adam in Huntington Beach. Adam, hello.
Hello. People aren't in jail for the crimes they commit. They're in jail for the crimes they got caught committing. So I would convict the guy. Maybe not so. I would say that he's guilty. not maybe for this crime, but for all the other ones about which we do not know. But he also has shed a light on something that I've been thinking of for a while, and that is we need a faster response to for trials than what's currently occurring. People shouldn't have to wait a month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever it is. We should have rapid response judges and rapid response mobile courthouses. Position them in areas where we know there's shoplifting. Like put one in a parking lot behind a Home Depot for one, or a Target in East LA, wherever the crimes are at nightclubs. And then somebody commits a crime, you catch them, you put them right in front of a court immediately, put them in a trial, and take them off to jail if they're guilty. But this amount of time that we're taking now between when we catch someone and when they finally go to court and then they're let free, it's not discouraging anyone or preventing anyone. So this guy maybe, well, I do think he should go to jail. I think he's doing us a favor and maybe casting light on punish people faster for the crimes they commit. What do you think?
Well, just make the courts into the in-and-out RV where you can take them to a school, you can take them to a picnic, you can take it to an event. I don't know. I've never been done before, but thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Randy in Napa. Randy, hello.
Hello, John. I would say, hello, John. If I was there and that happened, I think if I didn't have a knife on me, I'd pull my shirt over my head and I'd ask people, hey, anybody got a knife? I'd cut that son of a bitch's throat. And if nobody had a knife, I'd kick him in the net so many times he'd die. Save the...
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Tom in Corona. Tom, hello.
Hey, John, I agree with you. I would not convict this guy on a jury. Or, I'm sorry, I would not convict him. And, I probably wouldn't get put on a jury, being a retired cop, but this driver had it. He had it coming. And the beauty of it is, after being shot in the butt, not only was he an a-hole to start, but now he's a double a-hole and probably wearing a colostomy bag for the rest of his life.
Well, here's the funny part. After the guy got shot in the butt, he suffered brain damage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to Yvonne in San Jose. Yvonne, hello.
Hello. I'm just thinking it's more about gun laws and how much they want to take the guns away from people. It doesn't matter. He used a form of violence, I guess, in retaliation. Maybe it was, post-traumatic stress or acting to protect himself in fear of his life. Whatever the case may be, it was because he used a gun. It wasn't because he didn't stab someone. He didn't beat the guy to death with his hands or whatever. But it's mostly they're going to promote it because it was a gun.
Oh, I'm sure. But what's funny here is the person with the car could have killed a lot more people than the person with the gun. The person with the gun shot the person who drove the car on purpose into the crowd full of people. The person who drove into the crowd full of people wanted to kill as many people as humanly possible.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. And that's what I'm saying. They're not making this guy out to be, they probably are putting him out to be a victim instead of the criminal that he is. But the guy that had the gun, it's because he had a gun that they're going after him, with everything that they have.
Oh, I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure that's a huge part of it, actually. Thank you for the call. Let's go to John in Morgan Hill. John, hello.
Hello?
Hi there.
Yeah, I would convict the guy that ran over everybody and, throw 5-pound stones at him when he's found guilty.
Yeah, in the Old West, when something like this would happen, if you tried to kill a bunch of people on purpose, that would be the end of you. That was it. You tried to light a town on fire, that was it. And now we take a look at these people and think, well, he was really angry when it happened. Well, of course he was really angry when it happened. You don't usually try to kill a crowd full of people because you're happy. That's not how it works.
Yeah, people would see that and say, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get stones thrown at me.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Robin in San Pedro. Robin, hello.
Hey, greetings, John. Well, I can't believe how much misinformation there is going on right now about this. I have a concealed carry, and if the only way you can shoot somebody is if your life is in immediate danger, and for him to shoot that guy in the butt in retaliation, that wouldn't fly in any state. So when they charge him, they're going to charge him with attempted murder. And when he goes to trial, the jury is going to have to decide, did he fire a shot in attempting to murder that person because he was not using his weapon in self-defense in immediate danger? That's the reality of it.
Well, the person tried to murder him and a bunch of other people moments before.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If a guy comes up and stabs me and runs away, and I pull out my weapon and shoot him in the back because he stabbed me, I'm going to jail. You have to be confronted immediately by danger in order for you to retaliate with a weapon.
Well,
That's
that
the
may
reality
certainly
of it.
be how the cops see it, and that may be how the DA sees it. If you put me on that jury, I'm telling you, there is nothing that prosecutor could say to me to get me to convict that man. Nothing.
It depends on what he's being charged. Is he being charged with firing a weapon, not out of self-defense? And the answer is yes, he is.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Michael in Alameda. Michael, hello.
Well, hello. How are things?
Good.
Great. I've got to say, that last caller, absolutely right on the doctrine of self-defense. But, of course, that's why the defense attorney would go to a jury rather than a judge, because the jury can be swayed emotionally. I don't like to contribute to the breakdown of society, but on the other hand, being shot in the butt is funny. I don't know if you saw the movie Sinners. Great shooting in the butt scene there. And I'll just say in closing that his defense team should look to you, because you get what you said almost turned me. You've got the basis of a Clarence Darrow-esque defense there.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. That's going to do it for today's show, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of The John Phillips Show.